In our first story, Parliament's Appointments Committee has unanimously endorsed the approval of Kissie Jabing as special prosecutor following his vetting on Thursday. The committee met soon after his 4-hour vetting, and all members decided to recommend him to the floor of the House for the necessary approval. Committee Chair Jose Wusu says the committee will submit its reports to the House soon.
My committee's view is simply to recommend the House to approve the nomination or not. As to how other people value or view his answers, I'd rather leave it to them. I just stay within the rules and just make recommendations to the House.
We know you met in camera soon after. Has he been recommended by the committee for the necessary approval?
Yes, the committee unanimously agreed to recommend him to the House for approval.
Now, the nominee seemed to have impressed most of his detractors since the announcement of his nomination by the president. He made a strong case for which he should be considered for the position most people felt was too big for him to occupy. Let's recap a bit of his responses at the appointment committee yesterday.
You have been described in language that is not too palatable by the said former special prosecutor. Now, in it, he says that Mr. Kissie Jabing is a surrogate of a law firm. Then he goes on to further implicate you as one of the key architects of the botched Ejapa royalties transaction. Now, if you juxtapose these allegations with the role of special prosecutor as an entity that ought to be independent, you have your would-be predecessor, that is, if given the nod, describe you in such language. Honorable nominee, what is your take on this? Are you a surrogate of anybody?
Honorable Chair, then before I go on, there's one more disclosure that I have to make in respect of Honorable Member Bulsa North. I was actually the chairman at his wedding reception.
Chairman was right. That he almost said that yes, I do on your lips too.
Honorable Chair, if I may answer. Whoever says I'm a surrogate of a law firm or implicates me in the Japa transaction clearly does not know me. Because if you know me, you wouldn't make such allegations. And so all these things that came up, I took it as coming from uninformed positions. Because I was not involved in the Japa transaction in any form or manner, by any stretch of the imagination, however fertile. As for relationships, as I just disclosed, the fact that I was so close to you at some point in our lives will not give you, or you not give me a free pass because of that relationship. And that is why I'm here. And if there is a matter, I'm not going to say because I know one person or the other, I'm going to give the person a free pass. I certainly will investigate. But the truth of the matter ought to be told. I wasn't involved in the deal. I was nowhere near it. Indeed, until it started coming up, I I didn't even know what it was. First, the age. I turned 43 years on 2nd July, a few weeks ago. I qualified to be the president of this republic. I am age mates with the president of the French Republic. Indeed, you should forgive me for saying this. I'm a year older than the Minister for Justice and Attorney General. We were mates at the University of Ghana and Ghana School of Law. He is the Minister for Justice and Attorney General. There's no question about his age. Why then throw issues about my age? In terms of experience, as I stated much earlier, I was called to the bar some 18 years ago. I qualified to sit on the Supreme Court of Ghana. Indeed, I'm 3 years past the qualification for Supreme Court. I have taught criminal law, especially in the University of Ghana, for 15 years, continuously. I see, if I'm not mistaken, some of my former students around this table. The Honorable Member for Ejuso is my former student. Honorable Member for Medina is my former student. Honorable Member for Kaikwe Central, I was their TA in conflict of laws. These are the products of my experience. They are here, right here, for everyone to see. And, Honorable Chair, to anchor on that, I have had a front row, although I have not been a prosecutor, properly so-called. I have had a front row to landmark prosecutions in this country. As defense counsel, I have been engaged in some very landmark cases, including the Tagore case, the Baglaskanko case. I conducted them. Honorable Chair, when Tiger IPI and Arimia announced come up with their investigative pieces, I am the one who supervises, and I've been doing this for quite a while, supervises the collation of evidence and all that for presentation to the Attorney General. Without me, the Attorney General's office will be poorer in terms of those prosecutions. So I can go on and on.
Joining us via telephone is a member of the Citizen Movement Against Corruption, Edem Senanu, for some thoughts on the nominee's performance. Mr. Senanu, thanks for your time. What's your impression of Mr. Ejabing following his appearance before the Appointments Committee?
I think Mr. Ejabing performed creditably. The questions that were put to him, he addressed them coherently and substantively. He was forthright. I really did appreciate his style of not engaging on earlier criticisms and comments by other persons, and just sticking to saying, I'm my own man, and I'll bring my own style to the table. So overall, I think that the unanimous confirmation was well deserved. But now the real work begins.
Before we get to the real work and what your expectations are of him, there were questions about his relation or lack thereof to the Ejapa deal, which he responded to in particular. Does this settle the matter for you?
I think it does. He was able to indicate that as far as he's concerned, he didn't have any connection at all. The description of surrogate for him did not apply. And nobody has provided any other particulars or evidence to suggest otherwise. So I think that with this response on that, he's cleared the air, and until some other information comes up, we should take it for the value he has provided.
Martin Amidu expressed some questions about KCA Jabeng's appointment. Should we ignore Mr. Amidu's thoughts, his comments?
I think that and those were the places where I thought he was very, he applied wisdom. He didn't get into responding directly, but saying that, look, the people who are saying these things don't know me. I have focused on my work. I have had no connection with any entity like that, especially given the duration. I think he said from 2014 he's been running his own firm as the main partner. And obviously that period covers the period of the issues that Mr. Amidu had raised. So he's trying to suggest, look, I have no connection with the people you're talking about, and you cannot be attributing any such things to me. And I think that, to be fair and objective, we should take what he has said and live it.
So let's go into your expectations of him then. What would you expect to see from a KCA Jabeng Office of Special Prosecutor?
Well, to start with, he will need to do a baseline assessment and report, indicating to all of us the status of the office in terms of logistics, in terms of human resource, in terms of the cases that the previous SP had picked up. Are they in preliminary investigations? Are they prosecuting? It will be good to know the status of things so that as we proceed, we can have a fair assessment of progress that the office and he are making. And I also expect that he would be more, what word should I use? More regular in providing updates. The law says that at the least every 6 months. I think that in the case of Mr. Amidu, he took too long to highlight challenges and obstacles, impediments, and the like. And that if he had been more regularly and more open about raising these things in the public domain, other stakeholders would have ensured that the institutions that ought to have supported, delivered on inputs, on support, etc., would have been compelled to do so, because we would all have been speaking about it on media and what have you. And if there was no justification for any of the impediments, we would have called them to order. So I'll be expecting KCA Jabeng to ensure that we are updated much more regularly on any impediments or challenges so that stakeholders can make sure that we are getting progress. And then also, he needs to be more collaborative. I mean, getting that agency to work with, along with other anti-corruption and security agencies that can support his work, is something that he will have to be skilled at doing, to get their support, to get the information, and to get things going. Those are some of the things that one would be expecting to happen under his tenure, apart from the other things that he has said he wants to do himself.
Right. Would you say that Mr. Jabeng enters his post at a controversial time, considering the fact that Mr. Martin Amidu himself had reason to write one of his famous epistles a week or so ago?
Not really. My view is that Mr. Martin Amidu, and we all looked up to him, respected him, we were expecting a lot from him. I felt that he had the tools to even take the state on and take the president on and use the courts, and maybe he just didn't have the confidence. But I think that is part of our history. I think we can learn from it. And I think that Mr. KCA Jabeng should just focus on the mandate given to him and make sure that he develops the systems. As we say, we need strong institutions but strong leadership. So he should provide strong leadership as he works to build a strong institution in the SPO for Ghana and for for citizens to have confidence that our decision to have this put in place was not a mistake.
Did I hear you suggest, pardon me, that the episode with Martin Amidu as special prosecutor is now history, and so Mr. Ejabing should focus and move forward?
Yes, I think that history provides lessons and points that we can build on. I think that that's what we ought to do. I don't think that the controversies that he raised are the substantive issue. I think the substantive issue is what is the architecture in the office, what are the systems, what are the issues, how do we work together to resolve them. And learning from Martin's experience, it should not be that he, the special prosecutor, is attempting to resolve these by himself and keeping it to his chest when there are difficulties. What should happen is that this is a collective effort. Let your stakeholders be aware of the circumstances that you are confronted with. Let us brainstorm together, create the platforms where people can work with you to get the results, and you are more likely to go further. I mean, one of our African proverbs says that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go fast, go with other people. That is what I'm recommending.
Thank you very much, Edem Senanu, for joining us this morning on News Desk. You're live on JoyNews Desk with me, Daniel Daz. And our portions of the draft anti-LGBTQI bill have hit the internet, attracting heavy criticism from sections of social media. Several comments suggest potentially far-reaching human rights violations. Among others, the Promotion of Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill 2021 will see culprits face a jail term of up to 10 years, depending on the crime, if passed in its current state. Individuals of the same sex who engage in sexual intercourse are, quote, liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 750 penalty units and not more than 5,000 penalty units, or to a term of imprisonment of not less than 3 years and not more than 5 years, or both. We'll get some analysis on this, and we'll soon be joined via telephone by private legal practitioner Oliver Barker-Vormawor, who is also convener of the Fix the Country movement. Mr. Barker-Vormawor, thank you very much for joining us.
Yes.
Right. Mr. Barker-Vormawor, can you hear me?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So I read your tweet where you raised question about some of the definitions given in the bill and how the bill in its current state outlaws having sex generally.
Yes.
Right. Please explain that for us.
So I think one of the things which we are having difficulty when we are talking about this bill is that because people are emotionally tied.
Right, Mr. Vormawor, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. Sorry, we seem to have had a slight challenge with the phone line there. Please go over your answer for us once again.
Yes, I was saying that one of the challenges about even critiquing this bill from a legal perspective is that we know that the incidence of homophobia is really high in the country. And for which reason, a lot of people are emotionally invested in the bill in a way in which we are unable to step back and say, is this a good piece of legislation and well drafted? Now the problem rises when you go through the bill. First of all, in terms of the structure of the bill, once you pick it up, immediately you can tell that this is not a document which was drafted by the Attorney General's Department, because it does not look like any law ever done. And the structure is wrong in terms of where things are placed, in terms of the memorandum. Everything is about the law. Now, the bigger problem you're talking about here is that even if they say they want to do what they intend to do, because they have drafted a law which is so poor, you have an instance where it affects a lot of issues which they do not probably intend to affect. So one of the examples I've given is the attempt under the law to criminalize what they call pansexual activity. Now, the law is unclear as to what they mean by pansexual activity. But the law does define what it means by pansexual. And it says a pansexual means a person who engages in a sexual or romantic activity with persons of any gender. Now, this is important because by this meaning, if we say that pansexual activity is wrong, then implies that if a person engages in a sexual or romantic activity with persons of any gender, then thereby they would have done something criminal. By this reason, if a person a guy engages in sex with their wife, obviously the wife is of a different gender. So by that effect, the law is implying that this is a pansexual activity. So what I'm saying is that they have ended up banning sex in its entirety because of inelegant drafting and improper definition of what they've done. And this problem repeats itself across the entirety of the bill.
Also in Section 22 of the bill, and pardon me if you may have brought this up earlier, but in Section 22 of the bill as well, you say that if, by your reading of it, if you call anyone gay, you should go to jail. Can you explain that for us?
So one of the things it seeks to do is that... Pardon?
No, pardon me, Mr. Bakavoma. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so what I was saying is that one of the things it seems to do is that by its own logic, it seems to say that one of the things it's doing is that it is providing protection to persons who are LGBTQI or all the things it says in there, and persons who are suspected or accused of being such. And one of the things it says in the kind of protection it's supposed to offer is that if anybody then calls another person gay, then that person, the person who is doing so, has injured the person who is being called gay. And so it protects the gay person by saying that your act of calling the person gay, then you've committed a criminal offense. So that's what it does. I mean, personally, I don't have a problem with bullying persons who we suspect to be gay or people who are, deemed gay. But I think from what I have heard from what they have been saying consistently, even in promoting this bill and in talking about it, they would themselves be engaging in a criminal offense because they would then be engaging in a process where, without any basis, they would be referring to certain persons as being gay or suspected of being gay. And that practice alone makes it difficult to know the real intent of what they are trying to do. Unless, of course, and it's a possibility that what they are trying to do is that craft a document which is so absurd that it doesn't even pass Parliament. And maybe that's what they are really committed to doing here.
So, from your reading, that's your position. This is an absurd document which Parliament should not pass.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, all I know is that it is a terribly drafted piece of legislation that goes beyond what it seeks to do. And that is so absurd in the way it is drafted, terribly drafted, that one is inclined to wonder whether they are serious about the document. And this is not about me telling people what they want to do or what they have to do. But I'm saying that I cannot see how a Parliament of Ghana properly elected can take this document and pass it. And it doesn't make sense, the document itself.
Okay. What's your position on what the members of Parliament seek to achieve? The members of Parliament who are leading the passage of this bill seek to outlaw LGBTQI activities and its promotion. Do you have a position on that?
So one of the things that I think we should talk about is the fact that we've lived in the Republic for nearly 60 to nearly 60 years. And one of the things our Parliament has not learned to do is how to draft a law. Parliament only recently introduced a legislative drafting bureau. And from my understanding, the bureau itself was not consulted in the drafting of this document.
Okay.
So it's a shame that for persons who have gone about and always touting how they need to be paid absurd amounts of money under Article 71, that they cannot even do the basic things which they are elected to do, which is draft a law. So that's one of the things that I think should give everybody pause. The second thing is that this is the second time in our republic that the private member bill is being introduced. And a lot of people clamor for members of parliament to be able to do this thing we have elected them to do. So when we see a document which is so terribly drafted, we are disappointed to see the real face of the absence of parliamentary practice in Ghana, to see how terribly parliament can produce a document. So I think those are the things we need to center in this conversation that we don't need to lose sight of in a conversation like this. Now, if by their own reckoning, what they want to do is to prescribe LGBTQ activity, I think the position has been in this country for a long time that Act 29 does that. And that's what a lot of people have said to us. Now, if the first place is to clarify Act 29, Section 104 better, then I think we fail miserably at the single thing they have said to themselves they want to do.
Right. Now, for Act 29, Section 104, the argument has been, Mr. Vomawo, that it does not cover lesbianism at all, and that it simply defines unnatural carnal knowledge, which by law and by practice we've come to see sexual activity between a man and another man. And so lesbianism is not illegal in Ghana. But what I was actually asking was that, is it something that you think is an infringement of people's rights?
So I'll take the first point you make first, because I understand that argument that has been made about Act 29. But this law doesn't do, this bill doesn't do that either. In Section 6, it talks about sexual intercourse between or among persons of the same. Then it defines sexual intercourse as penetrating the person with a penis. I don't see how lesbians have a penis. So it doesn't even do what it says. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't do that. But then the second point, yes, my point is that a terribly drafted law threatens everybody's basic human rights. Because it is going on and imposing duty on everybody that says, if you see somebody who is a cross-dresser, if I walk into any office space and I see a person who is wearing, a lady who is wearing a suit and pants, trousers, which people associate with the male gender, I have come under a duty to go and report them to the police. Well, that's one of the things that criminalizes as well. So I think this is, it goes to one, that's what I'm saying, that it goes to such absurd levels that you don't really know what it's seeking to do. And it goes way beyond trying to criminalize sexual activities between persons of the same sex. This is what I'm talking about.
Okay. Finally, before we wrap up, there's another part where you talk about farmers and hens without being too graphic, because this is television. Can you explain to us what you meant by how it makes it illegal for farmers to check if hens are about to lay eggs?
So one of the when I grew up as a young kid, my parents raised hens. Chicken. I think a lot of Ghanaian homes do. And one of the ways in which you check whether a hen is about to lay an egg is when you use your finger. Now, by the way in which this law is drafted, that practice of checking whether a hen is about to lay eggs even is criminalized. So this is where I'm coming from when I say that when you pick the whole document and you go by clause, that it is all the things which is said in there are so terribly put together that even something like an activity where you're checking whether a hen is coming to lay an egg falls under the law and has been made a crime. And that's what I mean there.
Right. Oliver Bakavomo, let me finally end by asking, should LGBTQI activities be made illegal in Ghana?
I missed the question.
Pardon me. Okay, I'm asking you what you think, if LGBTQI activities should be made illegal in Ghana.
concerned, there's already a law that does that. So I think that in this conversation, that's not what we are talking about. I was part of the Constitution Review Commission when these issues came up. And in our recommendation, we said that the Supreme Court should intervene on them. So I think my position still pertains, and it's still my view on the issue. Because one of the things we noted in that Constitution Review Commission's report is the difficulty in that conversation. There has to be a clearer legal position. Now, I see that Parliament is taking the initiative through some of its MPs, but I don't think that they have brought clarity to the question. Because it even goes beyond that question you said asked. It goes to say that it creates a situation whereby once the bill is passed, it can never be amended because the act of standing up by any member of Parliament to say that amendments need to be introduced, either to repeal it, would be criminal. Because when you go under the clause, one of the clauses puts a duty on members of Parliament, the judiciary, and all other bodies to promote this and make advocacy or anything said against the law a crime. So it becomes even impossible to even amend it. So I don't think it goes way beyond the scope of LGBTQI sexual relations to deal with even questions of advocacy or not even advocacy, even discussing this law. And having a critical view of the law becomes a crime. You have to praise the law before you praise committing a crime. And I don't think that in a democracy you have ever done that before. This is pushing the limit. It will be interesting to see what Parliament does.
Oliver Bakavomo, thank you very much for joining us on News Desk. He's a private legal practitioner, giving us some a bit of an understanding of some clauses of this anti-LGBTQI plus bill. A 51-year-old suspect, Abugri Stone, is in the grips of the Savulugu police for allegedly defiling a 5-year-old girl. Savulugu District Divisional Commander Chumesi Ankra, who confirmed this incident, says a police medical form has been issued to send the victim to the hospital for treatment. She has also been asked to report thereafter for further investigations. Our correspondent Martina Bugri joins us via Zoom for more. Martina, describe the incident first of all for us. How did this occur?
What we gather is that the little girl's grandmother asked her to go to the suspect's place and pick some money. And so she went there for a long time. She wasn't returning. So the grandmother decided to go and find out what was keeping her. But when she got there, she noticed that the suspect was on top of the girl having sexual intercourse with her. So the matter was reported to the Savulugu police. I'm told that they were given a medical form to go.
Right, Martina, can you hear me? Martina, can you hear me? Unfortunately, we seem to have lost Martina Bugri there. She's joining us via Zoom from Tamale in the northern region, giving us details of how it became that a 51-year-old man allegedly defiled a 5-year-old. Martina, you got to the point where you were telling us that a medical form has been issued by the police. Please go ahead.
Yes, a medical form was issued by the police, but they had a challenge because they could not pay for what the hospital was asking for. And so the police command is negotiating with the hospital so that they can at least help them so that the issue would be, it will enable them to begin the investigations into the matter, I'm told.
So where's the victim now? And how is she doing?
I gather she's recuperating, but the suspect is also in custody now. We are told that he was sent to court and remanded to enable the police continue with their investigation.
Now, I was reading the conversation you had with Chumesi Ankra, the divisional commander, and I understand he was complaining that these incidents are becoming too many.
Exactly so. It is not just with the Savulugu Municipal Assembly, but the entire northern region. I have spoken to Kola before, and he also raised concerns of these issues of defilement and rape becoming rampant in the region. And when people come in with these cases, they register and they begin to investigate. The people are reluctant to cooperate with the police. And so it's a major concern that the region is facing.
Martina, thank you very much for joining us with those updates from Tamale. Martina Pugui is our Northern Region correspondent. You're live on News Desk with me, Daniel Daze. We'll be right back. Live on JoyNews Desk with me, Daniel Daz. It's time for Tech Talk. Kobe Spiky and Kruma has joined us in studio. Hi, Spiky.
Hi, D.
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Will we be posting on TikTok after this, knowing that, everything is okay for them in America?
Well, not 100% yet. It's still pending. During the Trump administration, there were a lot of Chinese companies came under the crosshairs of Donald Trump, and from Huawei to TikTok, and even asking that TikTok be acquired by an American company. So the Biden administration has, agreed that they're going to drop the litigation over the ban, and they're going to look at how they can secure users' data, because that's been a concern that TikTok is taking users' data, and because TikTok is in China, they're afraid that may be, there's always concerns that Chinese companies are affiliated to the Chinese government, and that's what America doesn't want, that their citizens' data would be leaked to the Chinese government.
Well, it's what Donald Trump pushed, and it was part of this bigger agenda about how even coronavirus was from China, and there was this huge, So, I'm glad that those things are being sorted out to get things back on track. But we've been really excited to see space travelers, private space travelers, bringing all of our childhood dreams.
I'm glad you also have those childhood dreams. You want to go to space at one time.
It's not a childhood dream. I still have the dream.
Oh, why not? It's attainable.
Yeah.
Soon it will cost you about $600,000, and then you could go to space.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's in line with my current dream of being a millionaire. I become a millionaire, then I go to space. It's working.
I agree with that. I also want to become a billionaire, so that I will be flying people to space, be like Branson and Jeff Bezos. Anyway, so Jeff Bezos and Branson have been able to reach suborbital space. And when we say suborbital, it means that they didn't go exactly into orbit, but they went a little bit above Earth's atmosphere, where in the Blue Origin, which is Jeff Bezos' flights, they experienced a bit of weightlessness. How you can float in the air. Boy, I want to experience that. And guess what? One person who actually booked a ticket to go with Bezos couldn't make it because, he had some clashed schedules. So $28 million, it didn't share, like we in Ghana would say, that's Ikano Ashe. So in the next flight, he'll get to go. But
I'm just wondering, where were you?
What's so important?
What's so important that you couldn't go to space?
Exactly.
Anyway, look, I wish there's a lot to talk about, but unfortunately, we have to end it here.
Oh.
Yeah, Kobe Spiky Kruma, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure. You're live on JoyNews Desk. Up next is business. Stay with us.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. The Finance Ministry has commended GCB Bank for consistently and steadily increasing dividend payment to government and other shareholders despite the challenges. Now, this follows a 14.5 million cedi dividend paid by the bank to government in respect of the 2020 financial year amid the COVID-19 pandemic. According to Deputy Minister of Finance John Kuma, other state-owned enterprises and joint venture companies should emulate GCB. There's more in this report.
GCB Bank has since 2017 paid a total of 69.62 million cedis as dividends to government. A Deputy Finance Minister John Kuma said GCB Bank has shown consistency in growth despite the slowdown in economic growth. He assured the board and management of the bank of government's continued support, urging them to sustain and improve on its performance.
GCB Bank Limited at 68 has posted a number of impressive results. In 2020, the bank's total income grew by 25% from 1.573 billion in 2019 to 1.968 billion despite the COVID. From 2019 to 2020, despite the COVID-associated impact on businesses and the economy in general. Profit before tax also increased from 6.8%. It increased by 6.48% from 574 million in 2019 to 611 million in 2020. So with this impressive performance, I wish to commend the board for GCB Bank, the management and staff of GCB Bank for these impressive gains despite slow economic growth being experienced in the global environment as a result of COVID-19.
Managing Director of JCB Bank, Kofi Edumako, for his part said despite the challenging year of 2020, GCB always led the path by providing support for the economy and all Ghanaians. He adds that the bank will continue to support the economy by providing support to businesses to recover post-COVID-19.
The future looks very bright. Despite the challenges, we at GCB see things differently. We see opportunity in the challenge. As the biggest indigenous bank in Ghana, we are well positioned and reminded of our responsibilities, that we are national assets, we have a rich heritage, and we have to help drive the economic agenda of our great country. So GCB will continue to focus on developing indigenous businesses. We'll continue to focus on aligning ourselves with what the government wants to achieve. And we'll continue to help Ghanaians in general develop their businesses and stay competitive in these difficult times.
GCB Bank increased its pre-tax in 2020 by 6.48% to 611 million cedis. The bank's total income grew by 25% to 1.96 billion cedis.
And that's your business update for now. Sports is up next.